Good morning. It is definitely not 10:30 a.m. It is 10:42 a.m. because we are running a bit late this morning, but this is Sunday Club, a weekly Ruby on Rails live stream where each week we do some Ruby on Rails coding and we build an app together. And the app that we are working on is an events application where people can organize and administer events, and then we are going to allow people to register for those events in groups and all the fun logic around that. We're late. I've been trying to set my laptop up to have a specific user to stream all the Sunday Club stuff, and then another user just for my day-to-day other stuff. When I first started the stream, I think I'm on my second full laptop rebuild as this, so I don't really use this laptop that much. But there's a couple of bits and bobs that I wanted to do coming up that just didn't want to intermingle with the stream particularly. It turns out that macOS and some of the stuff on my development environment don't like having multiple users jumped between them all the time. Fine. So jumped back to my original user and had to restart my laptop really quickly. And a shout out to, if you haven't used it before, Keyboard Maestro, which is a pretty cool automation app. I know there's now automations within macOS, which I think is pretty new, but Keyboard Maestro is pretty great. So I can, on this user, just run a script and it sets up all the streaming stuff that I need out the gate. All right, that's the only follow-up, and the follow-up is that I wasn't ready to go on time, but that's all good. Let's just jump into it. What we're going to do today, we are going to pick right up where we left off, because ViewComponents are really pressing my buttons at the moment. They're really doing, I think, a good job of helping me work out what we're doing in terms of the user interface and the logic in it. And I had a really fun time learning about it last week, getting the stimulus stuff up and running. It was really good. So let's get some of this. Let's take a look and see if we want to commit any of this before we refactor it. What are we up to? So I know that we haven't tidied up our branch yet, which I just say every week. So we've got add stimulus, add is adding what? Hotwire stuff. That's just adding the helpers. Oh, okay, so we could actually, we haven't committed any of our admin navbar stuff yet, so we could just refactor straight away. So we've got our hello controller, that can go actually because we're not using that, so we can discard these changes. Delete that file. We've got application.js, which is setting up. Well, that can go in as a separate commit because we actually want that one. Did that not go in the... Oh, that's actually... So this is, I'm picking straight up where we left off from last week. So we have a commit here where we installed Stimulus Webpack helpers. And what was that for? To get everything loaded into Webpack, right? So that's here. Oh. So we've got add application definitions from context. Hot words. And so definitions from context. I wonder what that is actually loading in. I can't quite remember because I want to write it for the commit message. Actually, let's commit that in terminal so we can see what we're doing. We're just going to tidy up a little bit from last week, work out what we need and don't need. So let's just commit that change, but let's go and take a look at what put the picker on here. What they called? They're called Stimulus Webpack helpers. Let's go take a look at this. I just can't quite remember why we did this last week. I haven't looked at any of this stuff since last week. And the GitHub URL might help us the most. Well, it is to set this code up. Was it just to get them working in call webpacks require.context helper with the path to the folder containing stimulus controls, then passing the resulting context to the application load method. So it is just providing this helper. I think this is just to get stimulus into Webpack. Yeah, just seems to be... Okay, let's just write the commit up for that then. That's... Ah, shit, just... Okay, cool. It was empty. Do hate accidentally closing the commit file. So this is going to be a work in progress commit, and we can say add. I've already forgotten what that's called. So just going to say that we are. Just going to take this and put it in the commit message. Add stimulus webpack helpers. This was added to get stimulus.js working with Webpack. I'm going to make that assumption from last week. But this is the README. Cool. That gets that out of our changes. The thing we can, so we added this reveal helper, and we sort of took this pattern from an existing package online somewhere and just rewrote it. I think their one was maybe in TypeScript, which we should 100% implement on this repo, and check in the last stream for, I think we adjusted a couple of bits, can't remember. That can probably go in. That would need this. All right, we have said that we don't want to leave stuff messy from the stream, so should we just tidy up where this lives? Got a reset. .scss, got one for action text. What I'm thinking is, like, do we want like a global or something that indicates? Yeah, okay. Because we're using SAS in ViewComponents at the moment, and they're coming in via this every time I jump to this each week. Yeah, so that's those SAS files are being compiled through Webpack there, as these are just the other ones. Let's just check in. Not sure I really agree with that naming, but I just want it out of here mainly. So this is just a file where it's just like a build step file where you're just doing this, so you don't have to worry about it actually. Oh, although we do want this. Presumably at the top of the stack, although at this point, I think all of this stuff would be at the top. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to leave that there. So does this still work? Let's rebuild that. Yeah, not a huge fan of any of this, but let's see where we end up. It's Oh, yeah, that still totally works. So hidden should still be a class. Oh, that's very small, isn't it? Okay, so hidden should be a class here. Hidden, and hidden is display none. Yeah, okay, let's commit those then. Not overly excited about the state of that, but just put it in a whip commit and think about it later. All right, cool. So work in progress. Add reveal stimulus controller and go bolt CSS to hide. So let's go and take a look at where we got this from, because I just want to, we might have to put a link to it in there when we commit it or something. Where did we get this from? It was like stimulus control. Here. I'll have to go back onto the stream last week. Yeah, it was here, I think. Yep, so let's put a link to this repo. Actually, I'll drop this in the YouTube description as well. Stimulus reveal control. I'm just doing that on the other screen. Cool. It's in the YouTube description of this video for anyone who's looking for that. I'm not overly confident in the addition of the global.scss file, as I think we might care about the loading order of the sort of root level CSS files, i.e. reset, normalize, etc. But I haven't about what we want to do with those. So just adding here for now. So that'll hopefully help me in the future remember why that is something that I don't like, because I'm bound to see it later and be like, hey, why did I do that? Then that leaves us with our giant component here and the styling for it here. So it looks like we already had, because I'm just looking at the green bars to indicate what's changed in this since we last committed. What's actually in our commit history then? So many work in progress branches. It's outrageous. So we added a basic reset, introduced the navbar component, add navbar component to site, headed very basic admin navbar, stimulus, 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 and then these changes here. So what's very basic admin navbar? Oops, hang on. This is just everything. So we added those two paths. Oh, but this isn't. Oh, okay, this is inside a component. Okay. So it's everything before the picker, basically. Okay. We could refactor everything down, rebase everything down to there once we get this working. Yeah, so we can commit this because this has only got the picker changes in it. It's not that we've built the whole thing in here. So let's commit this now. And commit this as well. We've got work in progress. Add organization picker to admin navbar component. In recent commits, we introduced stimulus. I can't type today. Stimulus.js. In this commit, we're using it to show Stimulus.js and a reveal controller. In this commit, we're using it to show hide the list of organizations that an admin user belongs to, so they can jump between them, navigate between them. Cool. So everything's committed up to date. Let's go in. And refactor this out. So let's take a look at what we're actually been talking about here then. We're talking about this navigation bar across the top. Everything looks super ugly, but that's fine. We're not too fussed about that for the moment. This gray box here represents the logo that we'll show. This is this sort of primary navigation where you can navigate between the events that you're organizing and the list of orders. And an order is people buying tickets or placing a booking or registering for that event. We put in a little notification thing that could probably go. That was because it was in our sketch file, which we were looking at last week. This would be where you'd have new notifications. And then this, let's see if I can open Sketch back up. Every time you open Sketch, it always tells you there's a new version. So let's say we want this one. And it should open. Great. Okay. So here is Sketch. And this is what we were working on. Can we hit? I just want to hide that. What's show and hide grid these days, or is it just because I'm... Oh man, I haven't used Sketch long enough. Yeah, it's just that I'm zoomed in enough to get that. Okay, fine. So this is the nav bar zoomed out. You got the logo here. It's super zoomed out. Little logo here, a couple of links, notifications bar, and then what these little icons represent is the user avatar and then the organization that they're signed in as. And so this is sort of what we were looking at this looking like across the top of the page. And then up here on mobile with a little picker thing. And on mobile, the menu would need to collapse down over here on the right hand side. So actually, maybe we could take a look at that. That would be interesting kind of from a stimulus and CSS world to see if we can get that working. And our picker is currently working like this, which wouldn't be ideal. I talked about actually not implementing this. I did it on the stream when we were doing the design. I think it's a kind of really, I'll say concise, but it's a way of showing the user and the organization in a way that doesn't take up much screen real estate, but actually tapping on it to toggle the organization might not be ideal. Although maybe you could make the entire thing the toggle, and this could maybe even also toggle the user settings menu or something like that. So I'm imagining this menu button here toggles this, and this little button here toggles everything in here. This could have like a count and settings and stuff like that. which is not an awful idea actually. Yeah, so I want to refactor and I also want to see if we want to write some tests for this, because the logic we have here is not really a lot of logic. It's basically like for each organization the user belongs to, show a list item in this dropdown, in this unordered list. But I don't know if we really care about that. In terms of testing, it's not I guess we do. And the other thing we want to do is, do we make that its own component and pass in the list of organizations and things like that? So that's the refactoring I want to take a look at today. And also maybe see if we can get it working as a mobile, as a mobile menu as well. All right, let's start refactoring these out then. So I think this one can go, the one with the notifications. That's just from the sketch file. That can go. It's not serving a purpose. I'm not going to build that right now. We can look at that when we want to do our notifications and all the turbo stream stuff around that. Here we have a user avatar, our organization avatar, and then our picker list. So this all feels like it could be one component. And can just live inside here. So the fact that does all of this do the show and hide work then? Does any of... What does the show and hide? Not that side. You have to have this data action here. So could I put that... Can you put that on the same DOM element that actually has the class as well? So can I do that? And does this all then become... Oh, it does. Okay, great. Because then that whole thing could be toggleable on mobile, and this menu could contain the user preferences and the organization picker as one kind of big drop down. Okay, that's cool. So that really could make, if we take this out of here, this is just telling you it's a line item. Here we just have a div, put everything on there. So that's sort of our component boundary. Everything in here down to here is then within our component for us to lift out. Okay, I've broken that, but that doesn't matter because I could set all the CSS I needed on this. So this, okay. So admin navbar. So how much do you namespace here? So in here, this is admin navbar component, but I want to create something within here. So do I do admin navbar user? It's not the user avatar component, is it? It's the... Guess it's like the account. Because it's got both the organization that the user belongs to and the user. So it's like the... If you can hear something rattling, it's the it's my door in the wind. So account. Something like that. Account menu item component. Okay, it's not a menu item, is it? It's like the navbar item. So each of these would be in like be a navbar. Well, I don't know. I'm still sort of working out what the naming on these view components is. So I think I'm okay with all of this. I think I've said the same thing on the last few streams. I think I'm okay with this all being rubbish and coming back. And the good thing about it is that it's all like super renameable because it's just lots of like small contained things. Oh, these are all the same, just different prefixes. Okay. So in that case, we can do. So we don't know what the SAS is yet, but let's go and get all of this. Take it out of here and plonk it into here. And into that, we need to pass a current organization, or a user, a current organization, and a list of organizations. I can put that there. Because again, when we're using the @ symbol in the component, that is not a global instance variable. On a view, that is the reference to the instance within the view component class. It's not that we would have, like, this wouldn't be available. Why is that not clicking off? On the rest of the view. Which I guess is actually something you need to be aware, like, need to be careful of if you're using view components, of like accidentally having a global instance variable for that controller and a corresponding instance variable on the view component name. That would get very confusing very quickly, which I guess we would probably want to avoid. And so here we would want organizations equals organizations, and that's so we can loop over it and create our list, and that's so we can show our current one. So this, instead of being user.organizations, is now just organizations. And wait, do we need the user anymore? Maybe. Let's see what we can do here. So we now want to render one of these. And we want to pass those things through. So we want user. Must be getting passed through here already. Organizations. Right, so I could still do user.organizations, I guess. I think the pattern we looked at last week was, if in doubt, pass an active record object until you get over a certain number of associations. And then, because you could just pass the first character. Like, this doesn't need to be the user. This could just, because that's all we're using it for, to generate the first character of the name of the avatar. So this line here, like, we actually wouldn't need to pass this through separately. An organization is presumably already being passed into this as current organization. I'm not really sure. Is this a good pattern to, because we're just passing these through? Don't know if that's a good idea or not. Or should there be like a global, not global, but like a presenter style thing that we pass down through them, like React style? Yeah, this is interesting. I'm not really sure whether this is good or bad. So that's another component. So when you get into here, That exists, that exists, that exists. And that's just a loop through them anyway. Does that even render anything? Nope. Item component. Component? Not even close. Component. If that works. No, got a typo. In navbar component 9. Oh, like it's missing there. Okay, great. So this all still works. Okay, good. So that's a good. Oh, it's not toggling. Yeah, it's just not clicking the right place. Okay, so we are passing stuff down. So whether it's good or bad or not, at least this is now an isolated part of the UI that we. So for example, let's say we did want to test looping over these organizations. Now the test would exist on account navbar item component. Rather than just having to test the whole thing over the navbar component. Okay, so while we're here, we may as well do the SAS file as well. And this is going to be admin navbar. Admin navbar. Oh, you wouldn't even need that, would you? You'd just be account navbar item, because that's the unique part. And here you want that to be flex. Still working out whether this is a good idea or not. In terms of like how this naming structure is happening. But, let's just wrap this in. Just put a line around it just so we can see. Put like an orangey line around it. That should now fill this box up. Yeah, okay, so we can now see there's the toggle. So only the bits within the orange box will toggle the menu. Nothing else will, but we can have, I would assume, where's our component here? So can we do width 100? Just do height 100, just fill the whole box. Okay, but we could also do line items center. And we could do justify content as center, I guess. Great, okay. So that can all come through into our SAS file. We can leave our orange line there for a second because that's no, it's getting covered anyway, so we don't get covered by a gray box. And now, however big this grows, this whole thing will be our toggle. I think we probably want to we can probably set a max width on that actually, depending on how we want it to be on mobile. Yeah, that could be pretty arbitrary for now, just so that it doesn't keep filling all that space. Let's jump in there then. Let's see if we can get the little, now that this whole thing toggles, I'll tell you what we can also do is we can make the whole thing toggle, but make it obvious that it's toggleable. So just change the cursor while it's on there. So that's only filling that. What's after that? Okay, so this one we actually want to go to the right, but that can stay fine for now. So here, so we want to lift the SAS out here as well. So admin navbar org pick a container that can come out because that now lives in here. Can get renamed. This is admin account navbar. Yeah, the naming's all over the shop here, but I think as long as you're consistent with like the name of the component is the first part of the CSS class, I think this is probably fine. He says. And I want to actually change this, don't I? That should continue to work. Let's just check it and break that. Still got that long build time because of the webpack stuff, but we'll come back to that. Okay, great. So this still works. What else can come out of here? Having a primary link, permanent container, user avatar icon. This can come out. This can come out. Everything else can stay. Okay, so these can come out of here. So everything to do with the component should just live with the component, and then all of these should get swapped out for this. And then avatar icon, user, and org should all get swapped. I guess everything. They should all get swapped. Okay. So this should all, again, nothing should have changed, hopefully, if I've saved everything correctly. And I totally broke it, so that has not worked. Oh, it didn't save this file. Great. Okay, so everything's still working. So we've refactored a bunch of stuff, but nothing's changed. That's all good. So now what we want to do is set our organization up underneath our user. The actual maybe we can just do so what's this relative to? The position absolute, what's it relative to at the moment? Is it still relative to something over here? Yeah, it's still relative to that content item. That can probably come out and be specified here. I'm just debating if this needs to be, in order to get one on top of the other, if the one avatar needs to be within the other one, like this. Because I want think that's going to make, I think this might be an accessibility nightmare if we do that. But then the whole thing is the toggle. So you could sort of say that this thing here is where you attach all of the navigation and help information, and all of this is sort of then a bit irrelevant. Let's see if we can. Yeah, so there we've got a sort of, this goes back to our sketch file here. We've got this sort of one and then the other layout. And we'd need to adjust their size slightly just to make them fit. Just sort of doing this by eye. And we'd no longer want that centered because this is actually what's centered and this is offset from that, although we could just make that slightly less offset. And this is really zoomed in as well, actually. I keep forgetting how much this is zoomed in. Yeah, I mean, okay, I gotta stop working on this. We need to actually make this usable. Which we're totally not doing. I keep forgetting that. All right, we can do that now as well. Let's do that now as well. Because what height is this? Like two pixels high or something? This height is 40, so we can like set it as 100 or something like that. That's just the logo. Is that like, are we actually setting the height on this, or is it just taking it from the content? Although everything is small, because I'm quite a high resolution here. So what's this height-wise? Actually, what's like the main? What's the main navigation height in GitHub? Let's just steal their number. Where's the little box thingy? Is it at the bottom? There's usually a little... Oh, is it because I'm looking at... Am I imagining the little UI where you sort of get... I'll just look at it on here. Yeah, well, you get all like the calculated heights and stuff. Oh, here we go. Did I just totally miss that earlier? 56 is that height. Which is not that high. That's pretty tiny still. Although that is why I tend to run everything zoomed in. Because I can't see anything on this screen. What did I put it as? 100. Well, let's put it as 60 then. So these can then be larger. So this one's always going to be centered. This one will be off-centered. But potentially we could just knock this one up a little bit. So could we say that these are now 5, that's off 6 and off 6, but this one is... Oh, can you, this one won't be positioned, so this one can we just do Just lift that one up slightly. I don't know if that'll work. So now we can't see it. So 6 is a stupid number now. Because... Or we could set a variable there and just use the same value. And then we need to change just the font size on those slightly because it's actually hard to see what they are. I could just come up to... That's probably just a bit too... I'm just doing this by eye. So this is kind of annoying, but I don't really want to do this for ages. Just picking some arbitrary numbers. Okay. I think we've kind of got that working. So this whole thing is then a picker. And so in here we could have like your account preferences and any organizations that you wanted to join. Do we want to write tests for this? So on the ViewComponents docs last week, they had a really helpful page about like how to think about things. And yeah, it was like I can't remember what the page was called. It was called like in practice. Here we go. Maybe it's this one. Everything is a view component, general purpose, specific. Is it like a testing, general guidance? Oh, I've got this the wrong way around, look. View component should be passed individual object attributes unless 3 or more attributes are needed from the object. Okay, so that's actually, I've done that the wrong way around. So here, instead of user, this should be user. Like it's the first character of the name, isn't it? So it's like user avatar character or something like that. Again, I don't think the naming on the stream is ever really very good, but get what you get. So current organization, so all of that is this, that is, so then when we instantiate this here, we do that in here, don't we? Yeah. So this is this. This API for that is actually this. And that's passing through the current organization. But again, you don't actually need that either because we're only using the current organization to get the first character. So that could get changed as well. And it could be I think it's a really long it's current. Okay. I'm moving these just because they're pairs with stupidly long names. But at least I'll remember what that is now. Oh, I'd probably rename that if. So because these are and we actually don't need, again, these could all just get passed down as well. So we're still passing in the user and an organization into this high level one, the navbar one, but we don't need that either. So that can become whatever it was. Dot name dot first dot uppercase, I think. And then dot name dot first dot uppercase. And then this one would become that. Okay, so in terms of refactoring, I think everything there should still work. Yeah, great. So we haven't actually passed the user or the organization to this component. And this actually, this is a list of organizations, but we could pass just an array full of hashes, I guess. I don't know whether that matters. Okay. I'm not sure quite what to do with them at the highest level. Again, maybe that's answered in that thing, because I only read it last week. Okay, can't quite see what I was looking for there, but it's fine. Okay, so we've refactored it down. I'm just going to make it a bit bigger because I can't see. That's all refactored out. So now, because there's no logic in it, I just don't think we need to. It's this one, isn't it? So have we got any? We have got a view component with tests, right? And this one doesn't. Okay, so see if this test has any value. So we're testing admin navbar account item. It's admin navbar. And got a template here. And we can say with a list of organizations contains links to each organization. Yeah, I don't know how particularly useful this is, but that's going to when there are no organizations. Shouldn't contain any links. Okay, how did you do this then? How did we do this last time? We made So user was the thing being passed in. So this is this, and what we're passing into here. Okay, so that's that, and then and we can also do I don't know what organizations would actually be. Can we do like could we build a little like array of I have no idea if that works. Like that, not only am I not sure of the value of this test, I'm also not 1,000,000% sure how to do it, but we'll figure it out. So the API for this thing is it wants one of these, and one of these. Which again, I'm not sure feels great, but still figuring out this view component stuff. I'm sure once we get into it, we'll know what we're doing. This one can be organizations. That one can be X. One can be X. I'm just putting in dummy values there. Right, so that one being nil, what does the component actually expect it to do? What does, you can't call each on nil, so it actually expects it to be an empty collection of some sort. But that's fine because we're passing in an active record association. Okay. So we can do render inline subject. And then how did this work on the other one? Expect rendered component to have. And then here we can pass in these names. This can be name. I've got org1 and I've got org2. Let's see if this is even a functioning thing. I've just winged all of that, so the odds of this working are pretty much minimal. Oh, hello in the chat. Sorry, when that came in, I've just missed it. What are you building, sir? We are working on an application that does event registrations. And each week we take a look at building a little bit more of a chunk of it. And eventually we're going to allow people to register to take part in events, and specifically the kind of complex part around that, around group registrations, and all the logic around like ticket types and people buying tickets in one group but wanting to take part in the event in different groups. Just all the fun stuff around that. Okay, so that test is seems to run. And at the moment we are looking at learning how view component works in Rails, how to test them, when to test them, and all of those fun things. So this just isn't passing the slug, but the slug would be generated when these are saved. So if I change this to create, I know we have to then actually do that in the test, but does that work? I'm just trying to work out if the test is valid in any way. Oh shit, it is. Amazing. So right, okay, so it now contains what we want it to contain. Could we just instead of doing the create to keep the test faster, could we keep build but set the slug? Does that pass? Just to save us having to make the database call in the test. It does indeed. Okay, so have link, I think you can do. This is all. So this is, where are we? We're testing a view component, and this has those view component helpers. So it renders out the component, but it's not in like a system test. So we don't have the actual DOM. So what API do we have? The Kappa. What API is this for have link? Capybara? Just gonna put like, what error can I use have link? That's kind of what I'm testing there. It's very scientific. Rather than look it up in the docs, just put it in the test and see what failure you get. Okay, so it has worked. So it's expecting to see a link to that. So let's say we expect it to have a link to /this/ I actually don't know where these I don't even know where these links go. Isn't it to like events? Admin events path. And can I call a path helper? Can I call a path helper from here? I don't think I can. Can I? Isn't that something we tried before? Grab one of these. I don't think I can do this. I think I actually have to test the actual path that comes out. Undefined method admin events path. Yeah, I don't think I can do that, but I think I want that, and that. And I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, because I guess we could just import those as helpers. All right, what have we actually got then? So let's see. Let's just puts the rendered output and see what we've actually got. navbar.org2 admin/events. Oh, does have link take an href? Oh, I see. Yeah. So have link, I think, takes a string and this. So this should be. So maybe we don't need to have text. Is it that? I'm just refusing to go and look up the API for that. Oh, it is. Okay, great. So then we don't need have text. We can just make both of these have link, because that specifies the text and the href. So all of that can go. And then we can move this from here, forcing us to put it for each one. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. And here we can say do this. And can you do in Capybara, can you do like don't have a link? Capybara check no links count. Not sure it's a great test. That's just saying that one exists. It just seems like a bad. I guess you could just do have text and then it shouldn't contain that. That's close enough. Yeah, okay, that's not really what I'm looking for. But I think it's a bad idea anyway. But I was trying to avoid just doing like to not have link blah blah, because then this could break. And then admittedly that one would fail, but we could just do that and assume that the name of the link would always be that. Not sure that's great either. So we want to see that fails if we were to put this in here. This should fail. Yeah, it does. I'm not sure that's great or not. What am I checking for here? What do I care about? So it contains no links. So I suppose if you actually changed the implementation within the view component and said this is actually like, you could comp this and do like, and prefix each link, we'd only break this test. We'd never break this one because it still doesn't contain that. It's because the link is actually that, whatever I just changed it to. And can you potentially, that's fine. At least this ties these values together. Still not sure it's a good idea for the gated one though. I mean, you could also, what's within, right, what are we actually taking? We want this not to render, right? So we could say, I don't know, because we're now testing view components, in terms of like making brittle tests, how tightly coupled, so could we do like, like that? Because we're going to need to style those anyway, right? So, and I've worked on projects where they basically would have a prefix for classes that were specifically for testing, which is never great, but it would be like that, or you could put an ID in or something like that you were looking not to show up. Maybe chuck it all in. Yeah, I'm sort of wandering off topic, but oh, whoops, wrong way. And even way, like if the test fails, you're still, the trouble is, I think that's another thing I'm sort of thinking of is like, by by not using like global instance variables and passing everything down, the visibility on what's likely to fail as you mingle the components in with other components, like if we put that picker elsewhere, sort of goes down. Because at the moment this is just in the admin navbar, but someone could put it somewhere and just pass it a list of organizations that the user shouldn't see. Like they shouldn't see a list of name of organizations. So this gets really important. Yeah. I think this is just. Feels worse by the second. So does that work? Like, is that a thing? Let's put this one in here again. If that fails. So you can't have has class. Have CSS. Right, so that has actually worked. Like that test would fail correctly. I guess you could do all of them. So not have that. This is then. So even if that first one failed, I don't know, what am I doing here? Building in redundancy? Like if I think that one's going to fail, the others shouldn't exist, but... Not quite sure how to test these. Okay. Okay, so that one's doing its thing. And actually we can sort of style those a little bit now. One of the plus sides of actually adding that style. Yeah, I'm not overly keen on that because this could be renamed so easily and the test wouldn't fail. That one just seems like the worst, like... Like view component testing. Don't know what I'm looking for really. Testing patterns. I love that this is like advanced patterns and I'm literally on like show list or don't show list and I'm immediately so like stuck. But these are more complex implementations, but they sort of make sense in terms of how you test them, I guess, because... Okay, forget. I don't really want to spend hours on this, and I think this is fine. Let's style it. Let's just make it look pretty. I think if we were doing something for realsies as usual. Working on the stream is not like doing our normal jobs, where we would be diligent and do all of our stuff. Here, we are just making it up. And we don't have any colors or anything yet, so we can just put some lines. We'll put in some nice Sass variables and stuff soon. So what width are they meeting? Oh, I see. They're meeting the width of that because they're nested within it. So they are also affected by that max width, are they? Can that come? Yeah, so why is this? So one thing is, why is that wrapping if I take the max width off it? Do these also inherit the max width? What's giving this thing its... Oh, I see. And it also... I mean, we could just give it a fixed width. And let them wrap within that. So 100% would be with 100% of its container. Could this live? Outside of that? No. Okay. Because making the mobile view, we'd need this one to be totally full width and not contained within that. So I think we would want to disassociate the idea of that navbar item being constrained in width. And the data controller. So that the UL could live outside of the thing that's constrained in width but still be hidden and toggled. I think this at the moment is 100 pixels wide because I'm setting it here, which forces the UL to be 100 pixels wide because it's within it. But I don't think it needs to live within it. I think they just need to toggle each other within the data control, the stimulus data controller. Which I think I want to disassociate now because where I'm going with this is that by the time you get to mobile, when you toggle this, I want that to be full width. And basically like, or if not full width, certainly wide. And so I don't want it to be constrained, although I suppose it could always. Let's just see if I can do that. We're all over the place here, but we're having a good time. Just looking at how to do some of these things. So can we swap these over then? So that is the div that sets the formatting. This is the div that contains the behavior. So can that go outside that one? And then the UL here doesn't need to live in there. I think it can live here and therefore get styled separately. And the only thing we would need to do here is make sure that this one was also position relative so that it was the nearest relative container. I have no idea if that works. Okay, so that's doing a thing. No idea what's happening here now. So this is now... That's the content item, fine. That's our container. This one... Right, so this one also needs to be a width. 100% right. Yeah, okay, fine. So that's there. And then here, could this be, we set this to 100%. Yes, great. Okay, so now that's still toggled on this. So this one needs to be, width and height need to be 100%. Yeah, okay, great. So now this is totally disassociated from that. And then we can set a separate max width on this. And that can be like 200. But the width itself can be 100%. Great, so now it knows that it can't be over a certain width. Okay, I hope that made some sense as to what I was doing there. But basically by placing the UL, the unordered list, within the element that had the max width, it was constraining the width of it, and we would have had to override that. Rather than trying to override it, I simply want it to not be constrained by that max width. So we split the element that represents the kind of navbar item, this little blob here. We can change the class names, like we could swap those over, because we like that could just be those three. This CSS class could just have these three CSS attributes in it: the position, the height, and the width. And then this one could represent all of the flexbox stuff that this one's doing. But the thing that's important is that this one then contains the max width. In fact, we could sort of do that now. So that we want to make the top level one because it's the name of the component. So that's probably helpful to have as that. So this one can be class as that. It can be position relative. So let's go and find our CSS. Close our spec, so we know that's doing a thing. So this is our top level one. We want it to be position relative. That means that can go from this one. Do we want these two? And I think it can. Let me take this as well, so that it fills those out. Admin account navbar item, and this one is in fact the admin account. It's like the toggle container, right? Making this up. Wonder how much of this you can get rid of. I think all of this might need to stay. And then down here, what did we do in the picker container? Set the math. This and this. All right. Does that do anything? Does that make any sense whatsoever? Great. Okay. And so now here, what we could do, I think, is if we removed that max width. Oh, they're still within that. So we would want to set that. Just wondering if we remove the position relative up to here on mobile. That sort of. Yeah, okay, great. So now you can see on mobile, we can toggle, this is like a full width menu. If that's making any sense. I'll just zoom in on that so people can see. So here, that's able to toggle all the way over the full width. And then all we would have to do is change this position relative. And then on desktop, you have to move the other one back. But it will toggle here on desktop. So we're controlling all of that with just CSS. And stimulus for the toggle. And the reason for that, if you're not kind of familiar, is that by using position absolute in CSS sets its relative point to, my understanding is that it's as it goes up the DOM, it uses the next DOM up with position relative set. So by changing position relative from this container here, which we want it to be on wider viewports, to the entire navbar, which we would want it to be on mobile nav, on viewports or narrower viewports, you can still set top, like bottom 0, top left 0, moves from here to here. And so then everything can still just toggle in and out. I think that would work. Should we try that? Should we? And that's interesting because that then moves the CSS behavior across 2 components. So I wonder if that's something that we'd want to take into account in terms of using view components. How do you maintain CSS-based behavior when you're trying to isolate things in components? So these are all namespace together. So what do I mean by that? Let's actually do this together. So in here, admin navbar, position relative. Oh, actually, maybe we can keep that in here the whole time. Maybe we don't care about that. Maybe we just care that exists. And all we can do is just toggle it on this one. So here, that just needs to go away above a certain... I can't remember the syntax for these, whatever. So like in width. I'm just going to pick one arbitrarily. And you can do this within here in SAS, and it will get everything working for you. But I find that really confusing. This is just a pure personal preference thing. I actually find it much more helpful to, if your components are small enough, I prefer to be like, right, these classes all represent the starting mobile first state of CSS, and then here are a series of media queries that show you how things change, rather than a per class instance of how things change, because usually what I care about is how they change related to each other. That is just me. I might be totally out on my own on that one. All right, so this one would be position. I don't know what it becomes. What's not position relative? I don't know, like position. just inherit, I guess. Initial. Static. I don't know if that's going to work because I don't know what the value I'm supposed to be setting it to. Oh no, this one is relative, and I want it the other way. I want it here. I want that unset, so that should actually be easy. Okay. I think I've got that the right way around. Right, that works there. Then as we collapse down below 600, that goes to there. Great. Okay, so that's what's happening. So by setting this pink line whole navbar element as relative all the time, so it's just like, right, I'm willing to be a relative container. What we're doing in the CSS is setting and unsetting the relative attribute on this container. So once we go past 600 pixels, this then becomes position relative, and anything absolute within this will loop over to use this point here as left 0, bottom 0? Is that what we set it to? Left 0, top 100% is this point here, whereas left 0, top 100% is here. And what we want to do is on this little drop down picker thingy here, we want to set this as currently width 100, max 200%. And we can instead take this out and put it here. Set this here. So this is, I think it's probably more verbose doing it this way, because you can see we have to set this twice, but I don't think that actually affects the output because SAS sorts all this stuff out anyway. Does this now go full width on mobile when we toggle it? Yep, and then it should jump over to the left and be constrained there. Great. So we now have a nice mobile. I say it's nice. It looks rough as shit, but you get the point of what we're trying to do there. Okay, so that's fun. That sort of works for all of them, and that's only going to be one of the mobile menus. So, we actually, because on our sketch file here, there's going to be this one as well. So that will toggle one menu, that will toggle the other one. We could then pick, we could sort of have a mutually exclusive element to our stimulus controller that knew what to do in terms of hiding the other one. You could use a Z index and have them stack over each other. That would suck, I would imagine. You actually probably want the other one to hide, but you could use the same CSS on both and have them both just jump to full width here. What are the downsides of some of this stuff? Really long menus on mobile devices and scrolling can be a pain in the butt. So that's something I've had to deal with in the past. Yeah, and all that fun stuff. Anyway, this is just that's actually pretty good. We've done quite a lot of stuff there. I know it sounds like I've just been rambling and doing it, but what have we actually done? We have refactored this component out of the navbar component to start with. So this thing now has a life of its own, and could theoretically be dropped somewhere else. It's it's not graphically, like CSS wise, independent, because I guess it is, because it would fill the container or whatever, but it would look weird. But that's fine, I think, maybe. So this now has a life of its own. It knows how to render everything itself. It knows how to format it, sort of. And it has a test to check that the links show or don't show correctly. And in our navbar component, we are simply passing it everything it needs. And one of the things that I am not sure of is we're now passing user in here and passing current organization here and passing them through. I'm not sure what we should be passing to the high level one. But let's commit this. Let's just check we didn't break any other tests actually. Okay, it's taken a little while, but I think so. Those are those system tests firing up Chrome, I think, in the background, taking a little while. Okay, so we haven't broken anything, so we can just keep wildly committing to our ever-growing work in progress branch, which I know I actually will come back and refactor. I know that last time when we were doing all of the previous app we didn't, but this one is we're going to stick with. So yeah, I think when we rebase this, we're not going to end up keeping all of these steps. I don't think I care about having in the Git history all of the steps of rebase, of refactoring this out. So I'm just going to commit all of this on the assumption that what we'll end up with is just added this one, added this one, added this one. And because the CSS file for the actual high-level navbar one will be very small by the end of this. Like you've seen how much we've removed by just removing one to a separate component. So eventually this should hardly be anything, and the navbar component should basically just be a wrapper containing the individual navbar items. So the Git commits can be like add navbar item, add navbar item, add navbar item, add navbar, and the navbar is dumb. It doesn't know anything. So write this up properly actually. So in a previous commit, we added a whole admin navbar component and added everything we thought it would need. As part of the work to factor the contents. I don't need that. This commit refactors the account navbar item up to its own component. We've added tests to try and ensure that list of organizations only shows passed in, and updated the CSS to this look. I'll just make this more usable on mobile devices. And the note I want to leave myself is I'm not sure how. No, that'll do. Right, let's keep going then. We're at 1 hour 41, so it's a little bit of time. We haven't got anything to do late today, often I'm jetting off after this stream. So this is our toggle here. Let's do a primary nav one. Components. Nope. Admin. Navbar. Navbar component. We've taken out the other one. And so this one. So this one, I think we can extract out on the assumption that we might need it to be smarter later. So what do I mean by that? At the moment, it's only going to contain 2 links. I think we could easily leave it, but I'm interested in extracting. We just leave it for now. What do I mean by it being smarter later? At the moment, we know you can have events and orders, but maybe there's a third option that appears depending on your... Yeah, let's just leave this for now, because all of the stuff that's cool. So you might have like an asterisk appear after events. If there's a new one that you haven't seen yet, there might be, or like a little badge icon or something like that. Just don't have that complexity yet. So maybe this is just a let's not refactor it if you're not going to need it for now. This one contains logic already, so it makes sense to do. And the logo can perhaps become a component that just represents the logo, that it always has like the right alt text and the right aspect ratio limits and stuff. All right, why don't we tidy it up instead? Why don't we tidy it up instead? So let's go through and start taking out. Oh, for a start, why is it not at the top? What's happening to... Right, so we have an HTML. Is it padding top? Or just padding in general, I guess. Nope. Nope. Wait, do we have to actually... Oh, okay. So where's that spacing coming from? There. Admin navbar content container contains a margin that we don't want. Great, okay. Admin navbar content container. An admin content container must live in here. And this goes back to our lack of reset, which again, we can sort of fix on the fly. This is going to be absolutely brutal to refactor all this. Not refactor, to rebase all of this. Okay, so this is fix. Well, okay, so that fixes that. So we want to get rid of all of these lines. So we can get rid of the outline pink. We can get rid of the outline silver. Okay. And I guess we want to somehow start constraining this width on wider viewports. And again, this goes back to our need for some sort of layout parameters here. So on, like, take GitHub, for example, like the logo here isn't butting right up to the edge. It could do, but it's not. So they're constraining that width at a value. and then they're deciding where they're going to not constrain that. And so I think we probably want to do the same thing, because I think in admin land you sort of have two options. If we're going to run edge to edge everywhere, you could push the primary links over to here on the left hand side and push everything else over to the right. But that only works if there are places where your content, like on GitHub, is also not constrained. So if your content is constrained all the way down, you probably want to constrain your navbar. We haven't really made those decisions yet. I don't think we did that in the sketch file at all. Maybe we did. No, we just talked about this idea of having a left-hand navigation here that would somehow be reflected on the desktop side. So the same UI could be used, but would be persistent on, like this actually could all live like this. Oops. Shit, I've grabbed the background as well. I didn't mean to do that. Let me just lock that. Oh, damn it. Get there. When we select this, this can just all go and live here. Right, so this could be, that could actually be our desktop layout, for example. So that's what I mean, like when they're not constraining the width, and then this, is this all just one giant component? No, damn it. That'd be helpful. So, but this menu, which looks rough here, could just live down the left-hand side here, like edge to edge. And I think we did look at it. We did live stream designing this, and I think that we did then look at constrained versus non-constrained. Yeah, I'm not sure I have a preference or that I want to kind of get into that right now. But this looks a little bit neater, you know, without those lines everywhere. We can sort of bump some of these font size ups. All right, that brings us to nearly 2 hours. I think rather than jumping into anything else, now that we've committed everything and got our thing refactored and working on mobile. Oops, sorry. Working on mobile. I think we can wrap it up there. Jump over to our other organizations. So you can see the letter is changing here. B for best, M for Max, S for Sunday Club. Jump between these. Yeah, maybe next week we actually have this disappear on, because that's actually a bit of a challenge, I think. Have this disappear on mobile, have a new toggle appear, and maybe we just don't. Maybe you just have, because it's so small, just make the logo smaller and have it always have events and orders. Yeah, maybe we don't need to worry about that. All right, well, we'll think about what we're going to do next week. All right, amazing. Thank you to everyone who has stopped by. Thank you to everyone who dropped into the chat. Hopefully there was some useful stuff in there for people who are interested in CSS style things, or menus and view components and refactoring and blah, 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 and adding tests and stuff. If people have thoughts on anything that I have undoubtedly messed up, let me know. And yeah, we'll jump back in. I'm going to try and get this branch refactored, rebased, sorry, for next week. And I think we might just try and stay in UI land and maybe go and look at the actual event pages next week and start building out. I just want to stay in view component land. Just want to keep learning more about it, using it more, because I'm not using it in like day job stuff or anything like that. So just keen to kind of stay in that, get my head around it, maybe make some of the components for like viewing an event or viewing an order or something like that. Yeah, have a great week, and I will see you all next week.